Today we have breaking news. China is now officially owning America's biggest weakness. What is that? That's the tech giant Apple. Beijing has forced Tim Cook and his team to capitulate. But what exactly happened? Well, let's expose it right now, so everyone can see. This is a breaking news alert from Reuters. The headline: Apple gives in to Chinese demands over iPhone, allowing state-backed software on its devices for the first time. This is a massive U-turn by Apple. It's official. China just forced Apple to submit. And even recently, they refused to comply with a national security law in Hong Kong, which gave them no choice but to pull out completely from the region altogether. Now, why would China demand Apple to install state-backed software onto their phones? Well, there are two reasons. You see, Apple controls the most powerful phones in the world. This capitulation is unprecedented. This is the first time in history where Apple has given in to such demands. Of course, China has always demanded censorship before, but this time around, they want more control, more direct control over the devices themselves. Everyone knows iPhones are the most advanced smartphones on the planet. We saw this coming. We actually exposed this back in September. If you watched our previous videos, you know that we went through the entire legal battle between Apple and the Chinese government. If China wants to control the narrative in the future, they can turn Apple into a propaganda machine. Washington has been trying to contain China through a tech war, but they've failed. Once again, China has struck back, and this time around, they've hit the jackpot. They have America's biggest weakness. Imagine a future where every single iPhone sold in America is pushing out pro-China CCP narratives. This is a nightmare scenario for the US government, and there is nothing they can do about it, because China now has the ultimate propaganda tool in their hands. The first outcome was that Apple would win, and they could maintain their independence. Unfortunately, Uncle Sam's best days are clearly behind him. His decline is obvious for everyone to see, and that's why we must always be prepared. We need to always be ready for the worst. Because when Uncle Sam falls, only one superpower will remain, and that is the China-Russia alliance. But the second outcome was that Apple would lose, and they would have to comply with all of Beijing's demands. And guess what happened? We got the second scenario playing out in real time. And if Apple supports the US government's ban on Huawei, then Beijing can do something similar to fight back against America's ban on Huawei. And that's why they're forcing Apple to bend the knee. Everyone knows Apple has been very anti-China recently. They pulled out of the country over Xinjiang cotton, pulled out of the country over Hong Kong. It's the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party. And at this Congress, he will seek a record third term as the president of China. That's right. He wants to break the two-term tradition so that he can become China's president for life. And that move alone has caused a lot of dissent both inside and outside of China. But now Tim Cook is on his knees. He's giving in to everything that Xi Jinping wants because China has found America's biggest weakness, which is Apple. First off, this is to control the narrative. And second, China needs to censor Apple products sold within the country. That's because next year, Xi Jinping will be facing an important Congress. So naturally, Beijing will want to crack down on any form of dissent. And who better to help them than Apple? Who better to help them control the narrative than the tech giant from the US? And of course, Apple cannot afford to lose the Chinese market. After all, China is one of their most important markets in the world, according to Statista in 2021. China is Apple's second biggest market globally, right behind the United States. In fact, China's iPhone market share is growing bigger and bigger each year. So Tim Cook simply cannot afford to lose out to Beijing. That's why Apple is now complying with all of these new regulations. And what does this mean for the future? Well, it means that China now owns America's biggest weakness, and this is a disaster for the US-China tech war. Of course, this capitulation does not come as a surprise to us. We made it very clear that there were two possible outcomes. This is a big win for Beijing, and this is a big loss for America.